Sup y'all, it's Chris, here to give my long overdue afterthoughts of Marquez Mayweather and last night's Klitschko Arreola bout. First off, gotta say, if you're a Mexican fight fan, not a good broadcast for you, as the Mexican fighters got thoroughly dominated, unfortunately. I'll talk about Mayweather Marquez first, just because it was the first fight show and it's long overdue, but last night was my first time watching the fight, so I couldn't really talk about it prior. Not in depth, at least. Not that I'm going to go in depth. I mean, everybody has already talked about it. There's not much I can add. Mayweather dominated, obviously everyone knows that. I said on the radio show, big deal. It's the number one welterweight being the number one lightweight. I did kind of think that, not to discredit Mayweather win in any way, but it did appear to me that to be just the number one lightweight in the world getting beat by the number one welterweight. Not the biggest accomplishment, if not a great win in itself, just by the performance. Mayweather did get caught a couple times, got hit a couple times, flushed, but nothing that he didn't just shake off. He kind of smiled at Marquez, but it kind of made me wonder what would happen if a real 147-pounder put it on him like that, say Mosley, Cotto, Pacquiao. Pacquiao's not a real 147-pounder, but he's got more power than Marquez. Hopefully we'll get to find out eventually. As for the fight, the one thing I do want to say is Floyd Mayweather, man. The guy probably has to be one of the best defensive fighters in the history of boxing. Just almost unhittable in there. Even when he's on the ropes, he just he has such great defensive technique and moves. He really rarely gets hit flush, and I mean that's been throughout his career. I mean, I think I've seen him get rocked once, maybe in a fight, possibly against DeMarcus Corley of all people. Who would think, right? But the guy rarely gets hurt, and he rarely gets hit cleanly. Look at the numbers. I know punch stats, people don't always go by them, but Floyd Mayweather's just a great defensive fighter. Also, the fight, 97 rushed for me last week is reminiscent of the Gotti fight. I don't think it was that bad. It reminded me of the Baltimore fight, in all honesty. For better or worse, I suppose. But Mayweather looked good in there. What's next for each guy? I'd like to see Mayweather fight Mosley, obviously, with the controversy over the interview or whatever. But Mosley's been wanting to fight him. I know Floyd, they asked him last night on the broadcast who he'd like to fight. He didn't really say with Mosley. He said, we wanted to fight him before. He didn't want to fight us, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? That's the past. This is the present. A lot of people would like to see the fight. The fight makes sense. A lot of people are buzzing about the fight after last week's incident. It's just a good fight. It can make a lot of money. I don't see any reason why the fight shouldn't be made. I honestly can't come up with a legitimate reason. I know Floyd's fans may have excuses or reasons, but wouldn't they want to see the fight? I mean, if you don't like Mosley, wouldn't you like to see your guy beat him? Or if he could beat him? I want to see it. The only other option I see out there is the winner of Miguel Cotto, Manny Pacquiao. I'd like to see him fight either of those guys, whoever wins that fight. But aside from that, I really don't think there's anyone out there that Mayweather's going to fight. He's only going to fight big event fights. Obviously, he sold 1 million pay-per-views for this fight, so he's the number one attraction in boxing. But that also means he's only going to fight really big names to make the money that he's probably going to demand. So it's going to be one of those three guys or nobody, in my opinion. Pacquiao-Cotto winner, they probably wouldn't be able to fight again until mid-next year, so I hope it's Mosley just because it could probably happen sooner. It's all up to Floyd at this point. The ball's in his court, so to speak. Hopefully he fights Shane, because everybody wants to see the fight. Everyone except for maybe him and Leonard Ellerbe and Al Heyman. That's the only three people I can think of that don't want to see the fight at this point. But hopefully it gets made. If not, I really don't know what to say. What's next for Marquez? I think he should go back down to lightweight. I don't even think that junior welterweight's good for him. I think Bradley's too physically strong for him. I think Urango's a little bit too strong for him, even though Marquez is a much better technique. And Amir Khan's a little too fast and slick. I think it's just not really worth it. At lightweight, he can go back down and defend his title against Katsidas, who's the number one contender now. I think that'd make for a really good fight. Really exciting fight. A fight Marquez, I think, would win, though. Or he could fight the winner of Guzman-Funica. That would be a good fight as well. I don't know who thinks he'll win that fight just yet, but him against the other fighter would be good. Edwin Valero's around. That'd make for a good fight as well. Or, well, never mind. I was looking at the rankings. The WBA has 3 champions, including Marquez, or 2 other champions. Miguel Acosta and Paulus Moses. Can anybody tell me who Paulus Moses is? No disrespect to you, Paulus Moses, but I just never heard of you. I don't know how you're the WBA lightweight champion, and I never heard of you. So if anyone knows who he is, please just give me a little info, because I just don't know who the guy is. I've never heard of him, and yet he owns a title. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that, guys. Moving on to the WBC heavyweight title fight. Vitali Klitschko against Chris Arreola. Wow. I felt like I was watching Marquez Mayweather a rerun, but they were bigger. It was a completely one-sided fight. I don't want to say Vitali Klitschko looked like Floyd Mayweather defensively, but he was so good defensively, he rarely got hit, much like Floyd in the Marquez fight. Granted, there were a couple times where he actually turned sideways and actually ran from Arreola. It was kind of funny. I've never really seen a heavyweight fighter run from their opponent, but it was effective. So I can't really criticize him for it. Arreola just from the get go, from the first round on, it was pretty evident that he just wasn't really going to have a chance in this fight. He couldn't cut angles. He couldn't cut the ring off. Vitali was just landing punches to the head at will, especially with his jab. Credit to Chris, man. Dude's got a serious chin. He got hit with a lot of big shots, and Vitali Klitschko, even after this fight, still all of his wins but won by KO or TKO. But Chris never stopped coming forward. Granted he slowed down throughout the fight, but never stopped trying to come forward. And he was getting some serious bombs. So that guy's got some serious chin and a lot of heart as well. A lot of lesser fighters might have quit in there. Samuel Peter, for example. No disrespect to Samuel Peter, but he did quit against Vitali Klitschko, getting beat the same way that Chris Arreola did last night. Vitali, like I said, he fights tall, so to speak, and he fights tall well. He's just really good at not getting hit. He keeps his head back. If anyone watches mixed martial arts to see this video, he fights somewhat reminiscent of Lyoto Machida, the lightweight champion. The guy rarely gets hit, but yet he seems to hit you at will. And Vitali did that here, A good thing that I thought Vitali was doing, aside from obviously just, I told someone Arreola almost looks like a moving heavy bag in there after a while, and no disrespect to Chris Arreola, but it was like that. But about midway through to the late rounds, Vitali started mixing up more punches to the body as well, just landing shots to the body from outside. Smart tactic. I think that helped slow down Arreola even more than he was already getting slowed down through it, from the accumulations of punches he was receiving. Just a really smart tactic on Vitali's part. There wasn't really any parts. One thing that did bother me, though, anytime Chris Arreola got close, Harold Letterman mentioned this, I think the boxing historian mentioned this on YouTube, Vitali ties him up. Now, the ref would break it up right away, almost every single time. Either warn the guy for holding, or let Arreola do work in there. I noticed both the Klitschko brothers do this. I even talked about this, I asked Eddie Chambers about this last week, because he might fight Vladimir Klitschko, Whenever you get inside, the Klitschko brothers seem to hold their opponents. The ref breaks it up, and, they get a fresh start. They're no longer in their opponent's danger zone, so to speak. Not to say the Klitschkos would be in danger inside, but we'll never know because they grab onto their opponents and the ref breaks it up and we never get to see what could have happened. So that bothers me. That bothered me last night, and it bothers me in most Klitschko brothers fights. I just, it's something I like about mixed martial arts. Whenever there's a clinch, guys are allowed to work in there. Unless there's a long stalemate, guys are working in there, using knees. Obviously you can't do that in boxing, but with boxing it just seems like you grab your opponent, hold him, and the ref breaks it up and you get a fresh start. And I don't know. I don't really like it that much, particularly in these fights. But either way, Klitschko dominated the fight. Very impressive performance. 38 years old, you could have fooled me. You never would have known. Rarely got hit. When he did, it didn't really seem to affect him. Showed good stamina throughout, being pressured throughout by Arreola. As for the stoppage, I thought it was a just stoppage. Throughout that last round, I was thinking they should stop the fight. As the boxing historian himself said on here, and I was agreeing with, reminiscent someone of Calzaghe, Lacey, why let your fighter take unnecessary punishment? He's not going to win the fight. Arreola wasn't going to win the fight at that point. No need in continuing on and taking more damage. It could ruin your career. Look at Lacey. He was never the same after the Calzaghe fight. I heard KG21 Carlito, what's up, man, say it's good for, you could gain experience. I don't really think there's any experience to be gained by getting your ass kicked for another 2 rounds. Honestly, I think if it would have went on another 2 rounds, I don't think Arreola would have made it to the bell. He was really slowing down, and Klitschko was really starting to land some seriously hard shots. I don't care how solid your chin is, an accumulation of punches is going to wear any man down, eventually. As for Arreola crying after the fight, I'm not going to diss him, I mean, these guys put a lot of their lives, their whole lives, pretty much into a fight and preparation for this one big moment. You don't know how you would react in there. So until you're in that position, who are you to criticize the next man? What next for Arreola? Just, fight some lesser fighters, get your confidence back. As for Klitschko, I saw his number 1 contender is Ray Austin. That can't be right. If it is, I don't want to see it happen. We saw what little brother did to Ray Austin. Vitali will probably do the same. I think Moskaev might be next. That's going to be an easy win for Vitali. He'll probably win within under 5 rounds. Also, he's got a contender 3rd ranked in the WBC, Manuel Quezada. Never heard of him. If you've heard of him, please tell me who he is. I've never heard of him, never seen him. Povetkin, I wouldn't mind seeing that fight eventually. Kevin Johnson, the American, got a good jab, but I don't think he has the power to really threaten Vitali. Also, there's the winner of Alu of Hay. I would like to see that fight if it's Valuev. I think Vitali would win easily if it's Hay. I'd favor Vitali, but I'd like to see it because Hay does have the speed to keep up and catch up with Vitali, and Vitali I don't think would be able to evade his punches as easily as he was able to evade Chris Arreola's. Plus, Hay does have some power, although he doesn't have the chin that Arreola does. So I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I don't know. After the way Hay backed out of fights with both Klitschko brothers, I doubt we'll see it. But you never know. Either way, I don't see either of the Klitschko brothers losing anytime soon. So get used to them until they want to step out of the ring and retire. That's pretty much it for now. I don't think I'm going to be back next week. There's just a show box. I'll probably be back in a couple weeks whenever the next big fight is. But until then, y'all, I'm out.